Hello, you beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel. This week we are going to be talking about mourning, but probably not in the context that you think. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button below so that you can stay up to date on all of the weekly content and videos that are coming your way, because who wouldn't want more of me, right? Like, are we kidding? Anyways, now let's jump right into the topic of mourning and what exactly I'm talking about when I say a different context of mourning. When we typically hear the word mourning, we think of grieving a loss, but when we are grieving a loss, it can be a loss in so many different areas of our life than just the one that we typically connect with mourning. And what I mean by that is that we can mourn different versions of us. We can mourn people that we used to be. We can mourn relationships that didn't work out. We can mourn a childhood that we didn't have, a relationship with a parent that we didn't have. And I think that that's actually extremely important in being able to grow and evolve and heal, because let's use the example of a relationship, right? When we're in a relationship with a significant other, we tend to have an idea in our minds of what that future with that specific person would look like, right? Because we are dating them, we're in a relationship with them, and when you're dating someone, it's the inevitable end goal is either you spend the rest of your life with this person or you go your separate ways and you break up. It's how getting into any love relationship really is, right? But no one ever is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna break up with this person. You go into it being like, okay, like this is someone I could spend the rest of my life with. And we create the ideas in our minds of the life that we could have with this person. And then if you go your separate ways for whatever reason, the relationship doesn't work, you then have to mourn that life that you are no longer going to have because you are no longer with that person. And in relationships, when we're going through a breakup, we really don't give ourselves the time or the space to mourn the relationship and the life that we could have had with this person if things worked out differently. And that's something that I've really started to practice in my own life with not only former significant others, but other aspects of my life as well, because this doesn't only come into correlation with a relationship or a significant other, it can be in so many other aspects of our lives, such as we could mourn the childhood that you wanted to have, because a lot of us have, unfortunately, things that happened and occurred within our childhoods that weren't the greatest thing in the world, that were either a big T trauma or a little T trauma, whatever it is. We all have a story that has made us who we are that usually occurred during our childhood, and whatever that may be, or it could be a relationship with your parents that you didn't have when you were younger, or a caregiver relationship that you didn't have when you were younger. Giving yourself the space to mourn what you didn't have, because a lot of times we hold on to anger and resentment, and we harbor that from experiences that we had when we were younger, or from our childhood, or a lack thereof. And we let it bubble up inside of us when we're adults. And when we let that anger and resentment build inside of us as adults, it comes out in countless different ways throughout relationships that we have in adulthood, or just our life in general as adults. And that can kind of seep out of us in not the best way and affect a lot of our relationships in very negative ways. So being able to give yourself grace and give yourself the space and capacity and validation of mourning the childhood that you didn't have, mourning the life that you wish was different for you. Because I mean, speaking from my own experience, like I wanted things to be different in certain aspects of my own childhood. And when I started being able to give myself the space to actually grieve my childhood and grieve the relationships that I didn't have with my parents, and grieve whatever I needed to from younger me, it allowed me to feel so much freer. And what I mean by grieve it is how I did it is I wrote a letter to my younger self, and it wasn't just like younger me. I wrote a letter to my parents, and other people in my life who affected me in ways that weren't really helping me and serving me as an adult, and weren't helping me live the life that I wanted to, because we all deserve to live a life of peace and love and happiness. And when we're holding on to a lot of things from our past, it can be really difficult to live in the now and be able to experience peace to its fullest extent when we are holding on to so much from our past. So being able to write those things for myself and really allow whatever emotions came to the surface come to the surface. And when I did it and I wrote those letters, I then meditated on it. Obviously, this is what worked for me. You don't have to do what worked for me. You could do it in your own way, but I highly recommend giving yourself the space to mourn the childhood that you didn't have, or mourn the caregiver relationships that you didn't have, or mourn whatever traumatic experiences happened to you in your childhood. Because I look at it that if you experience something traumatic in your childhood, your innocence is taken from you to a certain extent. Yes, there's different severities and different extents of that innocence being taken, but when you experience something when you're young that is traumatic, and then it is taking that childlike essence from you, at least to a little bit, and being able to grieve that when it was taken from you before its time, I think is really important in the healing process. And not only could mourning the life that you could have had with someone, or the childhood that you could have had, or the relationships with your parents that you could have had, or your caregivers could have had, it can also be said to mourn the versions of ourselves that we no longer are. Because the only constants in life are change, right? I mean, there's only two constants in life, and there's only two guarantees in life, and it's change and death. That sounds very morbid, and I know, but the only two guarantees that we really have in life are change and death. And a constant in our life always is change. And as we're changing, we're growing and evolving into different versions of ourselves, because even if you don't think that you have changed in any way over the last 6 months, you have. You are not the person today, sitting right now watching this, you are not the same person that you were yesterday. Meaning that you could mourn the person that you were yesterday if you wanted to, because whatever happened within those 24 hours, you grew and you evolved and you changed to some extent, that you are no longer the person that you were yesterday. And I think that that's an absolutely beautiful fucking concept, because being able to constantly change every single day, you're never going to stay the same. You always have a chance for a fresh start to be the person that you wanted to be, the person that you were meant to be. And being able to look at the past versions of yourself, whether it's you from 5 years ago, a you from 10 years ago, a you from a year ago, and looking at this person who is you, parts of you, and being like, I have so much love for myself and that person that I was in that moment. And I'm so grateful for everything I learned from that and I experienced from that, and however it helped me grow. And I allow myself the forgiveness for not knowing better in any situation, because I did the best I could at the time with the tools and the knowledge that I had, and being able to mourn that version of yourself, because we all have certain instances and experiences that we regret or we wish we did differently, or past versions of ourselves that are difficult to look at sometimes, and being able to mourn that version of you. And because as we grow and evolve, we are losing those parts of ourselves, but not everything you lose is a loss, if that makes sense in this context. I don't know if it does, but we're growing and evolving and changing every day, and being able to mourn who we used to be gives us the space to let those parts of ourselves go. And it opens up areas in our lives to heal those parts of us, to allow different versions of us to come forward, and different versions of ourselves to grow and evolve and sprout and show us aspects of us that we never even knew were there before. And that's such a beautiful thing to me, that we can mourn whatever we need to in our lives in any way that works for you, whether it's like I did with writing letters to my past childhood self and writing letters to my parents and people that affected me when I was younger. And I'm not necessarily going to say forgiving them, because forgiveness is a whole other thing. But for me, mourning these areas that I'm speaking of allowed me to forgive myself in a lot of ways. And I think that is the most important thing that you can do for yourself in this lifetime, is to forgive yourself. Because we blame ourselves more than others, a hell of a lot more than we realize. And we blame ourselves for things that we didn't necessarily have control over, that we didn't necessarily have a say in. And that can be really difficult when you're blaming yourself, and being able to grieve those losses that you had and forgive yourself played a huge part in me moving forward in my own healing journey, and me moving forward in becoming the person that I know that I am meant to be in this lifetime. And healing is so different for everyone. We all have different things that work for each of us. Everyone is so different, and what works for me might not work for you. Or what works for me could work for you, but you put your own twist on it. But I think being able to share our own healing stories in a time in the world where healing is such a large topic, and I think that's a fucking incredible thing, especially with our generation, that we are putting such importance and emphasis on healing and growing and becoming better versions of ourselves and forgiving ourselves and loving ourselves so much. That's such an incredible thing to witness in this lifetime, us coming together as a collective and wanting to be better, not only for ourselves, but for the world in general. That's such a beautiful thing, and that's such a magical thing to witness. And being on our own healing journeys, and we all have our own path, because each of our own healing journeys is so unique to us, because everything that we have experienced in our lives is so unique to us. And how one person experiences something is so different from how another person experiences something. And I love the concept of being able to listen to others' healing journeys and seeing how far they've come and how things have worked for them, and them sharing that from such a genuine place of being like, I am working on myself, and how I'm working on myself could help benefit someone else. I love that. I think that that's amazing, because when you're on a healing journey, it feels like you're in it alone. And being able to go online, especially nowadays, and find people who might not be on the exact same path as you, but are doing similar things as you, it makes it feel less lonely. So being able to share anything that has worked for me, I know younger me would have needed. I'm trying to show up as someone that younger me wishes that she had. And I hope I'm making her proud. Or at least I think I am. But with the whole point of me saying that is, you're not alone on whatever journey you are, whatever part in your healing journey you are on, you're not alone. No matter how lonely it feels and how lonely it can get, there are millions of people in this world trying to become a better version of themselves and try to heal themselves the best that they can. So as long as you are showing up for yourself every day and you are doing the best you can for yourself, that's all that matters. And being able to find the healing modalities that work best for you, and finding people along the way, whether it's online or in real life, that make it all a little bit easier and make everything that you're carrying a little bit lighter. That's a huge thing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you take something out of this, and whether it be that you need to mourn parts of yourself, parts of your life, and this doesn't only have to be for those aspects that I talked about, like childhood, different versions of yourself, and significant other relationships. This can be a job that you didn't get, an apartment that you didn't get, an opportunity that didn't work out for you. We can mourn endless possibilities, and I think it's very important to mourn those things, because being able to allow yourself to process your emotions in whatever the healthiest way is for you, and allow those emotions to flow. And like I bawled my eyes out doing this before, and there's no fucking shame in that. If you need to cry, scream, whatever comes out, there is no shame in that at all, because vulnerability and allowing yourself to feel your emotions is one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know I just said that, but I hope you take away something that helps you on your own healing journey, and I will catch you guys next week.